comfortable? He goes, well, I'm feeling very, very uncomfortable. I'm so sorry. And I remember the conversation. I'm like, whatever. Don't worry about it. I said, do you ever tell people, be careful how you speak to them because you never know who you're going to need? I said, you ever tell people that? He goes, oh, all the time. He goes, yeah, I'm so sorry. I said, all right, listen, it happens. Now you start remembering that later on in life. You know why? Because the people who you didn't speak nicely to, or you weren't nice to, they come back into your life. There's a bunch of guys in this room whose grandparents were very close, or maybe not so close, with my parents. A lot. Or my in-laws. Or myself. Or your parents. Your parents were somehow close, but not even your grandparents. And gentlemen, don't forget this. Be careful how you treat somebody. It could even be right here. You talk to somebody here, you're not nice to them, but later on you need them. And you think to yourself, oh, I'm better than them, I don't need them. But later on you do. You'll never know. There's a really wealthy person who, a lot of guys here know the name, who when we were Bachrim in Yeshiva many years ago, we got into some really bad, that's a nice way of putting it. They weren't arguments. They were more than arguments. He was a big jerk. I mean, at that time, he was a big baby. But later on, everyone's, oh, the gray, oh, yeah. Why don't you go to this guy? And I'm like going, whatever. I ended up hiring a whole bunch of his family members. I did. In Lakewood, in Cleveland, and, Florida. I have. Now, I don't go back and rehash all that because we move forward. Gentlemen, but remember, the past that you've done, you will have to pay for that. Everything comes with a price tag. And the price tag is not necessarily money. It could be money, but it could be embarrassment. The word really is pain. See, embarrassment is pain. So everything has a price tag. There was a guy, we used to go to the nursing home every week before this whole COVID thing. And there was a gentleman who we used to go to every single Sunday. And this was before we did the Fridays, before Fridays. So we used to go every Sunday, and we used to go to this guy's room and schmooze with him and hang out in his room. And this man was like old man, tall old man, and he barely got out of bed. Really, it was a big problem for him. Nobody came to visit him, and he couldn't walk around very much because his back hurt. And one time I said to him, why does your back hurt so bad? Do you remember his name?
No, but I remember doing that.
Yeah, Usher would know, because they used to go, doubt it. I truly doubt it. They used to go to his room, and they used to watch with him the football game in his room. They would schmooze about it. A whole bunch of guys would sit there, and they would talk about the football and this, that, and he would love it. And he didn't care so much about the singing. He just wanted to be able to schmooze with some people. So they would tell over war stories, stories about his life a little bit while they're watching football. And I asked him, why does your back hurt so badly? He goes, when I was younger, I used to lift lots of heavy stuff. He goes, and don't go lifting lots of heavy stuff. He said, I put people on my shoulders and all these heavy things. He said, because later on, he goes, I was very strong. He goes, later on, all the crushing of my spine on top of each other, without realizing, he goes, your spine's not that strong. He goes, your muscles are, but the spine is not. He goes, and it gets crushed and crushed and crushed and crushed. And later on, all the different myelin, all this stuff that surrounds. Yeah, the line. Well, not just disaligned, they get crushed. The vertebrae get crushed. There's a little stuff around the vertebrae, but it rubs. He goes, and then later on in life, when you're older, you start feeling it. He goes, when you're young, you don't feel it. He goes, it's there. He goes, but later on in life, everything starts slowly like wearing down. Your tires lose their tread, right? They lose their tread. You guys have been studying about cars. How much tread do you need to have on your tire to drive the car legally?
A lot.
A lot? Oh, that's a good answer. You failed. Next.
Little trick is take a.
No, I don't care tricks. How much? Anybody know the exact amount?
Nothing covering.
Oh, this? Yeah. About that much. No, you got to know exactly the amount. It's on the test. All right. Great. You'll look it up. But gentlemen, it's wearing away the tread. So he goes, so you never know. Later on in life, you pay the price. Now that's just a physical thing in your body. It's just the way it is. And it happens. People have, they don't take care of the body properly and they get all kinds of not great stuff. Tons of things could happen. But it's just for sure the same way in relationships. When you're not nice to somebody, when you disrespect somebody, when you make fun of them, you call them names, you bully them, you will pay a price. The price might be money. The price might be pain. And it might not be your own pain. It could be, it's much worse than your own pain, huh? Your children's pain. Someone could come up to you and hold a gun to you and say, hey, your money or your life? And you know what you say? My life. I mean, all right, so we retarded answer. Ridiculous. But okay, you go, money. But if they go and they hold it up to, God forbid, your kid, and they go, your money or his life? The guy will throw his, whatever it is, here, take it. They do all kinds of ransoms. People pay unbelievable amounts of money because they want to get their kid back. And they don't pay so much for their parents, but they will pay for their kid. Gentlemen, sometimes they don't even pay for themselves. They say, tell us where the money is, and the guy's like, But a kid, boom, okay, here's the money. Who cares? That's the way it is. People are like that. Yussel of the miser. Anyway. But the point, gentlemen, is your kids might have the pain. Your grandchildren might be pained by your actions. We find this in the Torah many times. What we're getting up to, it's coming really soon. What's the holiday coming? You learned a whole little booklet about it. Purim. What story? We forget about Haman. What nation does he come from? Amalek. You asking a question? I thought you know it. All right. Yes, Amalek. Who was Amalek? Who was Amalek? Excuse me?
Esav's grandson.
Esav's grandson. Basically, more than Esav's grandson. It was Yaakov's. No, not great grandkid. Yaakov's. It was his great nephew. And where did it come from? So the Torah, the Gemara, the Midrashim explain that what? How did it happen?
How was he born?
What caused this hatred from Amalek?
Oh, because Amalek was protective of his mother or something.
Yeah, Amalek was protective of his mother.
She wanted to become a Jew.
And she wanted to become a Jew?
She wanted to marry
into the family.
And Yaakov said no, so...
That's right. He said, I'm not interested in this. So she goes, she tried all these different eitzas, and they weren't interested. So she finally just went to Esav's family. And she said, well, at least I'm somehow connected. I could be a relative to Abraham and to Yitzchak. I could be related somehow. Maybe not through Yaakov, but at least through Esav. But she told her kid how we were rejected again and again. And today we have a nation against us because Yaakov rejected. Now, I'm not going to say, Yaakov, you should have married her. No, I'm not going to say that. But everything is in the how. It's all in the how. I can't tell you it's a mistake. I'm just telling you that because of that, today we have Amalek out to get us. I'm not judging what he did. I'm just telling you a fact. Because of that, they hate us. So, gentlemen, I could give you many incidents like this. Many, many. It's just the way it's going to be in life. The way you treat others, you will end up paying a price. At some point, you will pay a price.
Whether you treat them, they treat you.
That's right. The way you treat them, they will treat you. And if it's not them, it will be their child. If not their child, or your grandchild. And it goes both ways, by the way. You can have that if somebody is really nice. If you're really nice to somebody, you can end up that your child, your grandchild, some relative, gets a great benefit from it. Like I told you, there's a bunch of guys here because your family at some point was very nice, good friends with my parents. So I said, you know what, fine, let's have this guy. And I'm not dancing from it, but all right, let's do it. So there's a benefit. They benefited. In fact, they call me up, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm like, please, what's the thank you? No. That's the way the world works. But just remember, with your own lives, this is when you're setting that up. You know, it says, Maisei Avos, Simin Labanim. This is just the reality. What you're going to do, the way you treat, by the way, the way you're going to treat your rebbeim, the way you're going to treat your teachers, the way you're going to treat your parents, the way you're going to treat, for sure, other people, all these people. That is what's going to happen to you later on in life. So, you're respectful and nice, considerate, you'll get that back too. Your family will get that back too. But if you're not, you'll pay a price. Maybe not right this second, but there will be a price to pay. So I'm not saying, hi, hello. You don't have to do that. I mean, don't be crazy, but don't be disrespectful to somebody because you will pay a price. So, gentlemen, that's right. The way you're going to treat each other, the way you're going to treat everything, you pay the price. You know, even with material goods, you disrespect property and things, what happens? Not someone will lose. You will lose.
Abuse it, you lose it.
Abuse it, lose it. That's right. You know, what'd you say?
David
David HaMelech.
What goes around comes around.
That's kind of the way of saying it on, like, you know, social media. Anyway. In Torah we say, myself is similar about him. Anyway. So Hillel said a special thing. He says, he tells the skull that's floating by, because you killed others, you were killed. He says, and those who killed you will also be killed. Huh? It's an endless cycle. It's not an endless cycle. If you're nice to others, because you were nice, people were nice to you. And because they were nice to you, that's the way it goes too. That's right. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a crazy story. Years ago, a number of years ago, there was a parent who came and wanted to put his son in the yeshiva. And actually, they didn't even care about sending him to the yeshiva. They didn't care about the yeshiva so much, they just didn't know what to do with their son. So they came here and they asked me what to do. And I said, I talked with them for quite a while. We talked about different options. And in the end, after a long talk, I ended up saying, okay, I didn't tell the parents, but we worked it out. The boy stayed here in yeshiva. Now, the parents were like, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It gave the home life a lot of, before at home it was, you guys can know what it's like. At home, was it so great for the parents, for the family? No, it wasn't. It was horrible. Before they came, it was horrible at home. And then they were here, so like, whoo, we got a breather. We got a break. Anyway, a couple years later, boy's gone. He's not in yeshiva anymore. He left. And his father calls me up out of the blue. And he says to me, he goes, I want to tell you that a story that just happened to me. He goes, I just got a phone call from a father who's a very big Talmud Chacham, And the grandfather is like very famous Talmud Chacham. Very famous. There is nobody here who has not heard of the grandfather. Every guy here knows of the grandfather. So he says, that family called him up. The father, not the grandfather, the father called him up and said, I want to thank you for putting my son in. He says, I want to tell you a story. He says, today, 2 boys came to my yeshiva. He goes, he has a yeshiva, the father of this person who calls up the father. It's very complicated here, this story, no? You're holding the story? Some guys here are going, there's too many the fathers here. Okay. But, needless to say, we got the Bacher's father, who was called by somebody else, who says, I have to tell you, a story happened. 2 Bacherim came to my yeshiva today, and all the Hanhola, he goes, I'm one of the heads of the yeshiva, and all the other Hanhola said, we are not accepting these 2 boys. It's not happening. Nope, they're too difficult, there's too much challenge, they have problems from the past, we're not doing it. We're only taking a simple, great guy who's not going to cause us any problem. We're not taking these 2 boys. So he said, I have to argue, and bottom line is, since my word carries the most weight, we are taking these 2 boys, and we're having them in the yeshiva. So he says, I have to tell you that I took 2 boys in the yeshiva today, and it's because of you who took my son into your yeshiva. So this man, the father who was called about this other person, these other boys, he says to me, and I did not even tell them that the reason that I took that man's son was because you took my son. So you hear this? It's like a crazy story. I took a guy in yeshiva. Because of that, his father took another boy in his yeshiva, which then there was another couple boys who were accepted into a 3rd yeshiva because he accepted that guy's son and the grandson. Now the truth is, the whole story with the grandfather and the son, the grandfather came and the grandfather goes, we do not expect that you will take my grandson in your yeshiva. I have a yeshiva, says this rabbi, this old rabbi. He says, and I would never take my grandson in my yeshiva. Ever. He goes, so I don't expect that you would. He goes, but we're just coming to you for an eitzah. This is the grandfather who's got his big yeshiva, and then the father who's got another yeshiva, meaning the son of that big rabbi, and then etc. So gentlemen, all because of that story right there. So it keeps going down. You're right, it's an endless cycle. It is an endless cycle. That's just a fact. But it can go for good or for bad. That's a case that it was for good. I accepted one boy, he accepted some other boy, and therefore they accepted some more boys. It kept going. But if you're not nice to somebody, imagine the cycle too. You're not nice to somebody, then they're not nice to somebody, and then in the meantime, then it all comes back to you too, because somehow it will find its way back to you. You will pay a price. So you don't want to be paying a price. You want to be benefiting. So b'chlal, it's an important thing to be nice to people. That's just important. But you will pay a price if you're not. So when you badmouth and you talk about and you hurt and you bully and all this stuff, you will pay a price. Somebody will pay a price. A couple weeks ago, there was somebody who brought his son. That's a big mess, got to be cleaned up. There was somebody who came to visit the yeshiva, and they brought their son for an interview. And I was ready to take this boy, and of course not for now, for next year. And I said, I'm ready, I'll take the boy. Why? Because his father was my friend in yeshiva and did me a lot of favors. And the guy says, I didn't do you any favors. I said, yeah, I remember you did me a lot of favors. He goes, I don't remember any favors. I said, yeah. I said, but I feel Hakar Satayv to you. So, gentlemen, that's the way it goes. Now, imagine the guy who's mean to me or whatever. I'd have to think to myself, at some point I'm going to pay a price. Be nice to the guy anyway. It's a test. That's what you got to tell yourself, because it will come back. So try to be good. You'll get benefits. Let's think positive. Let's have a great day.